Welcome to Live Impact News. I'm Colin Mayfield inside the Impact Studio here on WCNC Plus. We have an ongoing Mecklenburg Board of County Commissioners regular meeting going on right now as they update things in the Advisory Committee report for Juvenile Crime Prevention Council in the proposed fiscal year 2026 allocation, the plan, and the annual report as they go and delve into this. We'll get more information and then come back to join you in a couple of moments once we get more of that details.
To make recommendations to the full body as to which programs ought to be funded and why. And if I recall, it was a unanimous decision on who it is that they would fund and support and recommend to this body to be allocated the funds by the committee. And so I said all of that so that I could now ask that I be recused from the vote.
And I actually don't know the basis for the request for recusal. Can you state it for the record? Either the attorney or you?
Well, I'm asking to be recused because I participated in the process, and I don't want to skew the vote of the board.
All right.
For the recusal for
If
the
that's
recommendation.
appropriate,
That's fine.
then may I have a second?
Second.
All right. The motion for recusal having been made and properly.
Hold on 1 second.
Yes,
I'm sorry,
sir.
Madam Vice Chair. Madam Clerk.
Who made the motion?
Actually, I think you made it.
He only asked to be recused.
He asked to be recused.
I'm sorry. Who's making the motion?
I'll make the motion
I
for
second.
him to recuse.
All right. Chair Jarrell and Commissioner Griffin. All those in favor of the motion to recuse?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Doesn't say anything. That's crap.
Are you asking for funds to start this program, or is the program in operation?
This is just for the recusal motion.
I'm sorry.
This is just for the recusal at this point, Commissioner Leak. Your question is about the recommendation for the appropriation. Commissioner Dunlap is asked to be
He
recused.
sits on their board
Right. And that's why he's asked to be
and has
recused.
spoken for them.
Well, he gave a comment, but he's asked to be recused.
That's what I'm
from the vote.
saying.
Yes.
I just want to make sure I'm clear.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
So if there's no further unreadiness, all those in favor of the motion to recuse Commissioner Dunlap from this vote, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion is unanimous. Commissioner Rodriguez-McDowell, do you have any comments on the, anything you'd like to say?
No.
Anybody else want to be heard on the presentation? Commissioner Leak.
Thank you. I'm not against the program because of George Dunlap. I'm concerned about how many youth programs do we have. And it's not about being against you, young lady, at all. I attended a major meeting on safety in this community just Monday. And every time we have these meetings, they're asking for funds, and they need funds to pay staff. My concern is, what programs do we have? And if we have programs already for youth, how successful are they? And who is financing them? Are you asking us for this money for the first time? Have you, the program is already in place?
Yes, ma'am.
So how much money have you gotten from the county?
Well, we're asking to just allocate the money that we, from DPS, $2,051,713.
This is
I can't hear you,
state, this
honey.
is state money.
Yeah, this
I
is
know
not
it's
county.
state money, the
That's what-
state money comes from us too.
Well, you asked about county, and this is not county money, this is state money. I just want to make sure you were clear about that.
Our taxpayers' money go to Raleigh and it
I
comes back.
understand. I just want to make sure you're clear.
And I
about what we're
understand that too,
appropriating.
Dina.
Okay, just checking.
All I'm trying to do is make sure, because these are my children that's getting killed out there. These are my families who are separated. These are my families who are drug abusers and trying to get a life for themselves in District 2. That's why we had that meeting on Monday. I've been working on this thing for over 10 years and longer. So it's not that I'm against it because of George Dunlap. I'm trying to make sure that the public is see that we are not just accepting it because a member of the board sits on the board. He sits on many boards. No, I'm not against it, honey. I just want to make sure that what we say we're going to do it, and then you get the money to help pay the expense for the people who's working. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying in the first place.
Yes, ma'am.
So don't stop me from talking now.
No, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
that's why I'm trying to find out, how many youth programs do we have? And where are you stationed now?
So currently, we have 13 programs. For this fiscal 2026 year, we'll have 12. We've served 794 children, youth, and we plan to finish that with 1,022 by the end of the fiscal year. And you asked the question regarding where these programs, where they serve all across the county. So the programs are scattered through the county. They're not in one specific area.
In different sections of the county?
Yes, ma'am.
Where's the one in District 2?
I don't know that on hand, but I could provide that information to you.
Please share that with us so we can understand and support it if it's going to impact the people that it should, and not just because we're friends with folks. I'm not dealing with that from that perspective. I'm talking about making sure that when other folk come that's not our friends with some of us up here, that they have the same rights that others have.
Thank you,
That's all I'm saying.
Commissioner Griffin, did you want to be heard? No, you're good.
I'm good.
All right, Chairman Jarrell.
Thank you for your work, ma'am.
Thank you.
Nicole, thank you for the presentation. A couple things. I know every year when we get the I mean, we have more nonprofits and programs than, we're not, this community is not lacking programming and nonprofits. All doing, most doing amazing work and a great job, but there's not enough funding, and everybody wants to tap the county or the state, or they think there's some magic money tree where, we can just go pull dollars, and it doesn't work that way. And I wanted this year to make sure that my words landed differently. And that was with an appreciation for what you all are doing, and an appreciation of how difficult trying to make these decisions, trying to split the baby. I know it can be difficult. And to the extent that we can get information that does show the proximity of the different programs, where are they, and any of that detailed information would certainly be helpful. But I didn't want this moment to pass this year without saying thank you. I appreciate it. And I also wanted to acknowledge the dust-up that I caused previously. So I hope you'll take that in the spirit in which I mean it. And I wanted to say it publicly. So
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I just want to thank our JCPC Council. We've worked really hard this year to ensure that we are selecting effective programs, as well ensuring that we make thoughtful decisions and do it as a collective. And so I'm really proud of this council.
yes.
Thank you. And I'd like to say that prior to joining the Board of County Commissioners, I served on JCPC as a attorney appointee, and was really, I just want to vouch to the community how difficult a job that board has to divvy up a relatively small amount of money to try to serve the needs of youth across this county, and to find providers who have the skill set and track record to really deliver high-quality services, but also ensure that we aren't just always turning to legacy organizations, but folks who might have new skills or new approaches that could be really fantastic. That's a hard thing to navigate with so much on the line. So it really is an act of service that you and your board invest all the time Commissioner Dunlap investing all the time to be there and try to get the very best outcome. So I personally want to thank you and everybody who's a part of that process, Sonia Hopper and her team also. So I think everyone has been heard at this time. Commissioner Leek, did you have one last comment?
Yes, I just want to make sure that we are understanding. I'm not fighting this program, and I'm not fighting Dunlap. I'm talking about what the public needs to know. Where are we being successful and where we're not being successful? And we've had trouble before, we're still having trouble now. And it may not be in one given area, but it's across this county. And that's what I'm speaking for District 2, because we met Monday to make sure we've been meeting, and we've been putting money out there. And all I'm saying is we're not letting people on this board influence us because we're friends, but doing it because it's working, because the program is a work. That's all I'm saying.
Yes, ma'am. And from everything that I've ever observed, I have full confidence that you're choosing the very best programs that you can.
And I hope
That's
she
my experience.
understands what I'm saying.
So thank you again.
Yes.
Everyone, I think, has now been heard. So
Yes.
all those in favor? I'm sorry?
I did want to say one last thing. And Nicole didn't say this either, but based on the rules of the board, she is ending her term as chairman. Right as things begin to start clicking and working, but our policy states that she could not be reappointed as chair. And so wish you guys would have been there for the discussion about the next chairperson. There were 5 people who turned down an opportunity to chair this committee. And she has done such a great job that I think she finally talked somebody into it. Can you share that with the board, since they're going to have to monitor that?
Yes, so he graciously agreed, Tom Barnett. He has been on the council, I believe, now for a year and a half, and he has...
What's the name again? I can't hear you.
Tom Barnett, sorry. And he's graciously decided to be nominated as chair, as well as asking for my assistance to advise him for at least for a few months prior to him, after he becomes chair, if he's appointed.
Well, that's very important, and all the more we are so grateful to you. Yeah, people are not banging down the door to do this work. It truly is public service, so thank you again. At this time, I think I need a motion to approve the budget that has, in the amount, let's see, I need a motion to recognize and appropriate fiscal year 26 Department of Public Safety, Division of Juvenile Justice Funds in the amount of $51,713.
So moved.
And the allocation.
And a motion to approve fiscal year 26 funding allocation plan recommended by the Mecklenburg County JCPC.
And adopt.
What'd you say?
B.
And adopt a grant project ordinance for fiscal year 26 Department of Public Safety, Division of Juvenile Justice Funds in the General Grants Fund.
So moved.
Did I get it all?
Second.
Thank you. All right. This having been properly queued up for a vote, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that is unanimous.
All right.
And I turn it back over to the chair.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair, for
Does that show
leading us
9
through
votes?
that. Excuse me?
Does it say 9?
I think it'll be 8-0
Who say?
because Commissioner Dunlap recused himself.
He
That's right,
recused.
he recused.
It's 8-0, unanimous. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. I'm going to turn it over to our County Manager, DiOrio, for manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have 2 items under my manager's report tonight, but first we'll have an update on Latta Place. As you know, we recently unveiled the exciting new plans to the community, as well as to the stakeholders and partners who have worked with us on this project. We wanted to bring the update directly to you and to residents and viewers across the county. I am very proud of the county team, especially Deputy County Manager Leslie Johnson and the team at Park and Recreation and all of our stakeholders that serve on our stakeholder committee for their tireless efforts with this very special project. As you know, we closed what was formerly called Historic Lotta Plantation in June of 2021. Since the 1970s, that county property had served as a historic marker of 19th century life. But being a placeholder for the past doesn't do justice to honoring and understanding that era and the ancestors of the county. When we opted for a change in direction, it also opened the door for reinvention of the site. We knew we could create a space to share history, but from a sensitive, unbiased frame of reference for those seeking knowledge and understanding. We also drafted a mission statement to help focus our work with the guiding principles to include truth, transparency, compassion, transformation, and unity. The new era for Lotta Place has evolved into a journey of retrospection and healing. This project has afforded all involved a chance to revisit the past with hopes of reshaping the future. At the same time, we are working to maintain the integrity and values of the stories that should be preserved for generations to come. I closed Lotta Plantation because I knew we could honor history with more dignity and reverence for our ancestors, especially Mecklenburg County's African American ancestors. Given my upcoming retirement, I will not be able to see the Lotta Place through its transformation. But I am incredibly proud of the work we've done. I look forward to the day when Lotta Place reopens, ready to tell the stories of the past with care and consideration of the messaging and a deeper understanding of the sacrifice and strength of those who came before us. Now I'll ask Gina Ford of Agency Landscaping and Planning and Malcolm Davis from Perkins Will to give us their presentation. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, County Manager, for that introduction and also for your leadership. And thank you, Commissioners, for letting us share the update of this incredible project that we're really honored to be part of. This is our incredible team that has been working through the project. My clicker. There we go. A word of acknowledgement that cultural landscapes can be read in many different ways by different kinds of people. We like to say it's not good or bad how you read a site, but people bring different things to historic sites. And one of the most interesting things about Lotta Place is that there are people that experience it as a place of great natural beauty, and there are others that might see it as a place of great cultural trauma. And both of those are present and create a tension that we consistently navigate on this project. I want to start just by acknowledging the site's context and its history. As many of you know, Lotta Place is a historic plantation built in 1800 along the Catawba River. As you can see, this is the remnant of the historic farmstead, including the original Lotta House, which is nationally designated, and a series of other support buildings, some of which are replicas, some of which are original to the site, all really intended to provide that glimpse of life from the 19th century. But the Lotta House and Lotta Place that we experience today is very different from what it would have looked like during its period of significance in the middle of the 1800s. As you can see on the left, Lotta Place would have been many hundreds of acres of cultivated land and would have been cleared for such use. The Lotta House would occupy the high point of the site, at the kind of very center of the site. And as you can see in 1978 aerial on the right-hand side, that has changed over time with the growth of the forest. So kind of erasing what would have looked like a very different landscape of cultivation during its period of significance. As we know, many different folks have occupied this land over time, from the indigenous folks who certainly have a heritage here that dates back thousands of years, that include the Catawba, Cherokee, and other Piedmont nations. The landowners who would have come and colonized this land in the 1800s. Many different owners have exchanged this property over time and cultivated this land. And of course, African Americans, enslaved, tenant farmers, and artisans who were brought to this land to help cultivate it. And as you can see, those all had different periods of significance on this site. We add also another layer of contemporary stewards from Duke Power, who took over the site in the 1970s, to Mecklenburg County, who have been over
All right, having some technical difficulties here on WCNC Plus. Been a rough day for us here as we deal with a number of different audio issues and other technological problems here in the Impact Studio. Just to remind folks, this is something that we have been doing new over the last couple of months. So we're still trying to iron out some of the ruffled feathers that we seem to have sometimes here and there. We do want to talk to you or give to you a tax scam interview. Right now, obviously, as we know, today was the tax deadline. And folks use this type of time to try and scam people out of their hard-earned money, or at least the money that they're going to be sending to the IRS, and potentially some of that money could be in the form of returns. So we'll go back to Jane Monreal and give you some tax scams that you need to watch out for heading into this season.
There are some tax scams that you need to be aware of. So I want to bring in cybersecurity strategist Patrick McNeil from GuidePoint Security this morning. Good morning, Patrick. Thanks for joining us here to talk about scams, because this is a time.
Yeah, good morning. Thanks for having me. As you said, we all know that these scams are coming, and frankly, Americans lost $9.1 billion in fraud from tax and financial crimes last year, as reported by the IRS. And tax crimes are so prevalent that the IRS actually maintains a list called the Dirty Dozen of the top 12 most common ones.
Wow, that is awful. So how can people know, what are scammers specifically doing to target their victims?
Yeah, so unlike the scams that we used to see that had a lot of typos in them, we're actually seeing some really good, well-composed types of phishing texts, emails, and this year even fake IRS letters that will come to your real mailbox that impersonate an IRS agent. So, especially given today's deadline, I would expect even some fake calls impersonating an IRS agent or a text message. And you may even see scams that are related to Helene, with give me your information and you'll get even more of a refund for a donation or even more of an extension.
Patrick, what are some of the telltale signs then that a tax-related email or text might be fraudulent?
You said it right there, text or email. The IRS will not initiate contact with you over text or email at all with regard to tax payments, refunds, filing, anything. So if you get any sort of communication other than a letter in the mail about your tax issues, don't click on any links in the message. Verify the source. Go directly to the IRS website or your trusted tax professional that might be helping you file.
What do tax scammers want? What do these cyber criminals want with our personal information?
Well, one of the common thefts is to actually file a fake return on your behalf, and then that way they can change your address and actually get your refund if you have any. Otherwise, they're just looking to steal personal details, so then they can go file for credit cards or other types of financial accounts.
And so are there certain groups of people, demographics that are being targeted more heavily?
Not particularly. There's a lot of people that can be targeted. It's pretty much universal. I think that, my personal opinion is that the elderly may be targeted more, people who are especially financially vulnerable.
All right, so once we figure we might have been a victim of theft, what is our recourse?
So first off, if you are communicating with the scammer or fraudster, discontinue communication right away and file with the Federal Trade Commission at identitytheft.gov to let them know that you're a victim of identity theft. The IRS on its website as well has an Identity Central or Identity Theft Central page where you can go and fill out the IRS form to report that. And of course, if you're working with a tax preparer, make sure to notify that tax preparer. Now, depending on whether you've given a bank account to have your refund deposited into, you may need to notify your bank or your credit card company, any of those details. And it is even a good idea to go freeze your credit so that any information that was obtained isn't used to apply for other financial accounts.
Good information, Patrick. What else do people need to know?
So you can prepare for next season as well. It's a good idea to go to the IRS and set up a identity protection PIN so nobody can file on your behalf. I think it's important to know that if you have been a victim, don't hesitate to report, don't feel guilty, because these scams are very sophisticated and it's easy for anyone to become a victim.
Absolutely. And aren't these guys are just getting more savvy? The use of AI, it really is something we need to be a little bit more aware of our own practices in daily life, right?
Right, yeah. AI has really enabled these scammers to be more complex in their schemes, more sophisticated and more believable. And because they're automating things with AI, they can scam more people in a shorter amount of time with those very believable messages.
All right, Patrick McNeil, cybersecurity strategist with GuidePoint. Thank you. Some great information this morning and really moving forward into next tax season. Thank you so much for your time. All
right, after listening to some of the tax scams that you need to watch out for, Mecklenburg Board of County Commissioners still in their meeting right now talking about Lotta Place and what that site will look like in the near future.
To pause and recognize that place of labor. These are kind of really simple lines in the forest that show where the original farm fields would have been, and we think we can interpret that and show student groups this kind of hidden history of the site. With a kind of interpretive moment really signaling this, the enslaved labor, the history of tenant farmers in this plantation, the ongoing efforts to conserve the remnant agricultural terraces. Coming out to the end of the journey, we have this incredible promontory that looks out over the river. As we know, the river was dammed at one point and really flooded a lot of land, including some communities. And so this is an opportunity to talk about that change too, and the impact to communities along the river. And it's a great moment of prospect. So a quiet place of contemplation we think is a great moment for pause at the end of the journey. Again, an opportunity to tell stories about the river and how the river has changed and how that's been shaped by different populations, how it would have been the reason why the Catawba would have settled here. Moving back, we think about the enslaved cabins on the northeast corner of the property and how to make those feel more like an interpretive community, providing seating, shade, interpretive waysides that tell the story of living conditions for the enslaved folks on this property. And we've been looking at other plantations like the Whitney and how they handle such a space, really paving systems and planting systems that support these as domestic settings. And a great opportunity to talk about how communities here found survival and resilience through home and a sense of community. Looping back through the farmstead, different stops along the way that would tell the story of the Latta house itself, of the original structures on site, and then moving back down towards the visitor center through one final tribute, which we see is really the final stop of the trail. The tribute, we hope to work with an artist to think about this work. We know that the ASC is currently in the process of selecting an artist with outdoor experience, making spaces of memory and memorial. And so these are just a few examples of what we could imagine this place could be. A tribute that, again, identifies the names and what we know of enslaved folks on this property, and spaces of, again, contemplation and reflection. Malcolm?
Good evening, Commissioners. We have been working in close partnership with our team, with agency, to really set the new visitor center up as something that departs from the visitor center of its past, as a location that in many ways celebrates the intensive craft of enslaved people and others for how they built and how they moved here at this site. The use and employment of wood-mimicking materials, but a quality of that through stone and glass and concrete and paving, to really celebrate what we understood to be the workmanship of the people that were here, but to also serve as a proper threshold and gathering location for the experience to be had on this broader site in a way that differs quite greatly and quite dramatically from years past. It's a small plan of some 6,000 or just under 6,000 square feet, designed with a lobby that will serve with interpretive uses of just under 1,000 feet, and a community space that will allow for 75 to 80 guests and visitors to come and have both challenging conversations, but also to be enveloped in some ways by the history and taught by the history, and in other cases be sort of set as the stage to launch into the tours and the experience that Gina has described. We see this as a momentary location in some cases to sort of launch into tours. It's a place where folks can come to gather for shade and to organize. The county envisions school groups coming here to sort of organize and gain new education and new learnings about the experience that they're about to have. But we see it as a multifunctional, multi-dimensional activity zone and space that will help us to both celebrate, gather, but also serve as a respite location for people to gather and heal. A couple of images of the lobby space. We're still working with the Design Minds exhibit design team to develop exactly what those interpretive experience pieces will be within the lobby. We're still evolving as we go into what we call our contract documents phase, to also sort of touch on materials and usage of those materials to warm the space up quite more than what you're seeing. The meeting or gathering space on the backside will be enveloped with lots and lots of natural light, opportunities for people to sort of feel at one with the landscape, while also gathering here to, again, intensively involve in conversations and learning experiences. Going back to the master plan, the site is intentional to envelop and engage the building in a way that is harmonious, to encourage people to spend time both inside and outside of the building, but again, to sort of touch these gentle edges of the park and the landscape in a way that sort of helps people to gain perspective again on what they'll be seeing through this experience. We're happy, we're moving forward. Zena's going to touch on our schedule, but thank you so much for the time.
So here we are in early 2025. We're in the process, as Malcolm noted, of really becoming much more detailed about design and putting together contract documents, which, as you can see, we hope to have that plus permitting and approvals done by late 2025 to kick off construction, ideally later this year and through next year. And with that, we'll pause on the plan and take your questions and comments, and thank you.
No, thank you for this important update. I know there's be a lot of questions and comments on this. I'm going to start with Commissioner Griffin and then go to Commissioner Powell.
Well, first of all, let me thank you. I think I sat on the selection committee, and we had a lot of conversations about the possibilities for this site. We walked around for a little while, and I'm just thoroughly impressed with the work and the attention to detail and your efforts to visit other historical sites to gain insight. But beyond that, what you just mentioned in terms of a tribute to the inhabitants of that site across the spectrum and their contributions being considered and represented on that site. I'm just sitting here in awe. And Dana, you said you won't be here when this thing is through, but you're going to be in Charlotte. You absolutely got to be there for the ribbon cutting. You know, I don't say too many things that excites me, but this really, this was really great stuff. And just to have that conversation and sitting beside Dr. Johnson, I think, at this review process, you took under consideration all of the comments and conversations and input from a very diverse audience, and have figured out from your presentation how to represent the various audiences. And I like the way you presented earlier. It's not this is right and this is wrong. It's how to reflect history on this site in an appropriate and sensitive way. And I can't wait, Mr. Chairman and Dina, to visit this. I usually don't participate from beginning to end. This is one project that I would have participated from the very beginning to the end. So thank you for your work, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, for giving me a chance to make some comments.
Absolutely. Commissioner Powell.
Thank you. So I'm going to be there from the beginning to the end, too. A couple things. I agree with everything that Commissioner Griffin said. This really reflects all the voices, or, many. I guess you can't reflect all voices and everything, but this reflects many of the voices. And there's been a wholehearted commitment from the top down, from, like, we work really closely with the county manager, and from the beginning, she was wholeheartedly committed to not making it a placeholder of the past. And everyone involved in the team of telling truth, and all of the priorities that were coming from the community. And so I love when Chairman Jarrell said, we need to be mindful of how our words fall, because there's so much good here. But there's so many great things, and I love that we're having a good community space, because that was something that was really important to the community, and I just want to make sure it's big enough. The one thing that I'm very concerned about going forward is the amount of impervious in a nature preserve. And so I heard a comment from an advisory board member who said, when you look at this, one of the last slides, it looks like a landing strip for a small aircraft. And I thought, I don't know how much impervious that is. So as we move forward, making sure that we work really closely with Park and Rec staff to make sure we don't put more impervious than we have to. And everything that comes with infrastructure, it's a nature preserve. So if sewer infrastructure is required, doing that with the least impact in a nature preserve. And so those are, I love this. I'm thankful for this. I think it's going to be awesome, but please keep that in mind as we move forward in the construction process. Because I am here all the time. Like, I'm here at least 2 or 3 times a week walking the property, and I've never seen the pawpaws. So I'm excited about that. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go with Commissioner Townsend Ingram, then Commissioner Rodriguez McDowell.
I just think it's an awesome project. It's in my side of town, and I always talk about the west side and District 2 and having some amenities there for the community. So I'm very much looking forward to touring this and taking it all in. Thank you all so much for your work and your dedication to it.
Thank you.
Commissioner Rodriguez McDowell.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I think we've certainly come a long way from, I don't remember what year it was.
2021.
Was it 2021? Gosh, time flies when you're having fun. Yeah, this, I really am proud of how the county has tackled this, and Dean, I really want to, commend you for how you structured this and, put it together, and how you invited in the public, and how you actually invited different groups that needed to be heard and represented, and I just was so impressed with the process in this, so I really want to emphasize that. However, I also want to, sort of back up Commissioner Powell's comments around the environment and making sure that we try to have as small a footprint of destruction as possible, because it really is a balancing act trying to get this right in a nature preserve. So I'm really excited about the project. I think my favorite part is the etched images on glass. That seems so cool. I can't wait to see that. So I just want to thank everyone involved, especially also Deputy County Manager Johnson. I know she had a very big role in this, and I know there's a lot of people that we haven't named who were essential to this. So thank you to everyone who had a hand in making this something that the whole entire county and even the state can be proud of. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go with Commissioner Meyer, then Commissioner Leek.
Thank you. First, I want to also say thank you to staff, Dina, your whole team, and Leslie Johnson. Thank you, because, that was a really low point, and I just had come on the board, and it was a big controversy, and you really took it and turned it into something positive, because this is beautiful. And I think it just exudes respect for the people that inhabited the land. And also, I think it does pay tribute to the land itself. And so I love the overlooks, and I love the explanations about, what they used the land for, and how they used it, and how the land helped them. And I think, and how it's changed over time. I also think it's a big tribute to the county for what we've done with the land, and we preserved the land. So I agree with Commissioner Powell. I do hope that we can keep it a preserve as it is, but it's beautiful, and thank you everyone for your work.
Thank you. Commissioner Leek, you were going to pass, or did you have something?
I just want to say it's going to bring economic growth to that area. It will change the image of the area as it relates to its present image, and that will add to Mecklenburg County and its contribution to that period of our life.
That's right.
As a people in Mecklenburg County. So I just want to thank the committee for its work in trying to revitalize an area that would soon be forgotten. But it can be a point where the nation will come here to see it as it relates to economics and family, children. So that's pretty much what I wanted to say about it. I think it would be great for a family education of who they are and where they came from, and all of us. So again, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Commissioner. We'll go with Commissioner Dunlap and then Commissioner Alton.
Okay, first of all, I want to thank Dina and her staff for what I call a heroic effort. For those people who were in our community at the time, the big brouhaha about what was going on the site presented an opportunity for us to do this and to get it right. And I'm just delighted to see what has progressed and what is being proposed for that site. One thing I want to say is, having viewed the plans, knowing that Mecklenburg County takes seriously its effort to make opportunities available for those who are disabled. I want to make sure that we have our vehicles on this site so that people can truly explore the site. And I know Dr. Johnson's going to make sure that happens. And then I want to say to Dr. Johnson, because when I first got these proposed plans, first word I saw was the word plantation. And I picked up the phone. I thought we voted to remove the word plantation from all of our properties. And Dr. Johnson, in her quiet way, said, now, if we're going to truly reflect history, It was a part of history. And I really respected that. That meant a lot. And so I am happy that we are going to, as Commissioner Griffin say, reflect history as it was. And so I'm thankful that we're at that point. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Chairman,
Commissioner Altman. I'll come back to you as soon as Commissioner Altman.
I really appreciate what Commissioner Dunlap has just said. I think that when you, as a community, handle something of such sensitivity and such pain, the reverberations of which are 100% still with us today in so many ways, the work's still so undone, that it's really like a holy endeavor to do it justice, to do it with the care, and especially when telling the truth seems to be under assault everywhere. It really feels like we're in a haven that, under the leadership of Dr. Johnson and Dina and all your hard work and all the community stakeholders, we're going to really do this in a sensitive and beautiful way that will dignify what happened, and ensure that everybody continues to be educated about what occurred and how it still is a part of the legacy we have to combat. So thank you.
Commissioner Powell.
Thank you. It is important to thank everyone, and I want to make sure I thank Dr. Johnson, but I also want to say that Lee Jones was so strong in this moment. You know, it was international news, what was happening at LADA, and it was, I mean, we were all getting overwhelmed by media, and I worked with Lee Jones for many years, and I just want to say it was just his strongest moment. He was unyielding, like it cannot continue, and I want to say that out loud because I think that was really important, and I think that energy, like Dina felt it, and it just was handled so extremely well. It could have gone really bad, and it was handled very well. So thank you.
I just want to briefly say thank you, Commissioner Dunlap, for reminding me. First of all, something you all should know about me, it's a good thing I'm at large because I'm so directionally challenged. I thought it was in District 2. It's close enough to District 2 that I thought it was in my district, District 2 on the west side. But thank you for reminding me that it's not the west side. It's the north.
But it's close enough.
It's close enough.
Okay.
I still want some stuff on the west side.
I think most people do think it's District 2, actually. Let me just say a couple of things. One, thank you all for the presentation. I appreciate the work. I appreciate all the comments made by my colleagues. They've said it very well. There are a couple of things that I want to add. Certainly, a thank you to Dina for the leadership around this. This was, to Commissioner Powell's point, this was a really rocky incident that, I remember like it was yesterday. And it was not fun. But it's always interesting how you can have a tough circumstance turn into something just beautiful. I'm blown away by what I see. I really am. I'm just blown away by it. I think it is just fantastic on so many levels, and I won't go into each and every one of them. And certainly thank Dina for her leadership, like I said. I want to double down on what Commissioner Dunlap said with lifting up Dr. Johnson, because I think particularly when we're dealing with issues of race that are tied to very, very difficult historical tragedies and sins of the past, i.e. slavery, and the way folks have been treated in this country. For an African-American leader to have to navigate this is, it can be a burden, because you don't know how it will land, and you are the one in the room that is supposed to be speaking for everyone. And, you know, it's very difficult to understand the weight that comes with that, the heaviness and the weightiness and the ability to have to think through it and then also speak to it. And so, Dr. Johnson, I just wanted to make sure that I lifted up that particular aspect of what you had to try, what I assume you had to navigate, which was not always, I'm sure, not an easy lift. And I wanted to publicly just say thank you, and to your entire team, but to you, and I know you're going to say it's a team effort, and you always do that, and I know it. But you also know that I also believe that leadership matters. That's right. And those who are serve underneath certain leaders, they get their cues from their leaders. And so that's why I wanted to lift up you, and I wanted to lift up Dina as well. So thank you for that. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Chair, the next item under our manager's report is a briefing from Medic. Medic is going to talk to us about their current performance, their resource needs, what their vision is for the future, and talks a little bit about an update on the current status of fire department contracts. And I'm going to ask J.P. Peterson, our Director of Medic, Executive Director, to come to the podium and make the presentation.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Hope you all are doing well this evening.
Hey.
My name is, let's make sure this is up there. Good, okay. My name is John Peterson. I go by JP, and I'm the Executive Director here at Medic, your EMS provider. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight regarding these important topics. I have two major topics that I would like to discuss this evening. The first is an update on Medic's performance and steps we have taken since COVID to mitigate the challenges we've been facing on many fronts. This includes ongoing work that will ultimately shape the vision I have for Medic's future and an overview of the resources we need to get there. The second topic is an update on our continued contract discussions with fire departments here in Mecklenburg County. First, I'd like to start with a little bit of recent history. I joined Medic in late 2021, still in the throes of the pandemic. As we all know, COVID took a profound toll on healthcare workers everywhere, especially those in EMS. Our employees were burnt out from working overtime to take care of our community and also dealing with the risk of exposure to both themselves and their families. Long story short, these factors unfortunately led to a large exodus in EMS nationwide, which Medic was not immune to. Fast forward to 2022, and Medic was facing the worst staffing shortage any of us had ever seen. Thankfully, we had tremendous support from this board and from our county manager, who approved and funded programs to help us create new career pathways for EMTs and paramedics. Since implementation, we have had remarkable success. Let's see.
Can you please say next slide, and then we'll take care of it up here.
Next slide. Okay, it's not working. Okay, so there we go. All right, thank you. So the programs we put in place resulted in 89 new EMTs joining the agency, many of whom were paid to obtain their EMT certification. Another 24 individuals who worked an essential role as operations support technicians managing supplies and medication stock on our ambulances were able to pursue their EMT credentials while still working a full-time job. As a result of our successful EMT recruitment, we were also able to create a paramedic pathway program, sending 28 current EMTs to an accelerated paramedic school full-time and fully paid. These students will graduate and rejoin Medic as paramedics later this year. Through these efforts, we have now reached our budgeted headcount for fiscal year 25, which is a significant achievement. Next slide, please. We can see the light at the end of the tunnel for staffing, which is a great thing. However, we are now seeing more need for Medic than we have ever seen before. So far this fiscal year alone, we have had a 7% call volume growth over just this year, which is over 10,000 new calls for service. This chart illustrates how this increased workload impacts the agency overall. The red line represents how many 911 calls Medic responded to by fiscal year. The blue line represents the total number of ambulances that responded to these calls, since some situations require more than one ambulance. The main takeaway here is simply that Medic is being relied upon more than ever, and there are no signs of that growth slowing down. While Medic staffing is back to budgeted headcount levels for the first time in 4 years, call volume growth has surpassed our response capabilities, causing Medic to be under-resourced despite being technically fully staffed. We must continue increasing our resources so that we can better respond when and where we are needed in this community. While working to increase staffing, we have also taken other steps to mitigate the challenges we experienced coming out of COVID. Next slide, please. In April of 2023, we redesigned our response configuration to better align our responses with patient condition. This both promoted a faster response for our sickest patients and reduced the use of lights and sirens, which also reduces risk to our employees and others on the roadways. To create a more efficient system where EMTs and paramedics are dispatched to calls appropriate for their credential levels, we made the critical decision to triage and prioritize patients experiencing a life-threatening emergency. Our mission at Medic is to save a life, hold a hand, and be prepared to respond when and where we are needed in our community. We hold the responsibility of saving lives within this community at the center of what we do. Placing that at the center of our response configuration redesign allowed us to remain focused despite managing a system through a long-term staffing crisis. We came back to this board last April with an update, and I wanted to take the time here to once again show you that we continue to achieve the outcomes we put forth when the changes were made. Since implementation, the following outcomes have sustained, including no adverse impact to clinical performance, improved resource alignment based on patient condition, a reduction of lights and sirens responses by 64%, reduction in ambulance crashes by 15%, and a reduction of first responder EMS call volume by 16% countywide. Next slide, please. Through all of this, we never lost sight of our clinical outcomes. This slide highlights patient conditions where our pre-hospital interventions are most critical. Our performance in each of these measures has improved since the implementation of our new response configuration. They also outpace established industry standards for EMS providers, listed in the last column. I would like to take a second to speak to one measure in particular, which is our success at treating cardiac arrest patients. These are the sickest of the sick patients that we see. Patient outcomes in Mecklenburg County for those experiencing sudden cardiac arrest are widely acknowledged as being among some of the very best in EMS, period. This success is a direct result of focused improvement and well-trained and committed providers from both Medic and our first responder partners, without whom we could not achieve the same level of success. We aren't just excelling clinically. On the left side of the slide, you can see what Medic's patients say about the care they receive from us. In 2024, 85% of patients surveyed by an independent company rated the overall care they received from Medic as very good or excellent. All in all, the work we have done with staffing and changing how we respond to calls has clearly helped the organization maintain the high clinical performance standards this agency has been known for. Looking beyond our clinical performance, I want to now change our focus to response times, which is an area where there is still work that needs to be done. Next slide, please. So how exactly does Medic report and track response times? It's a bit complicated. So please bear with me as I try to demystify things. MEDIC is a joint government agency that operates under the specifications set forth by its contract with Mecklenburg County. This document dates back to the mid-1990s, and for reasons I don't have, the targets for response compliance were never updated. The way the contract is written, MEDIC is expected to respond to the highest priority calls in less than 10 minutes and 59 seconds, with the caveat that certain circumstances outside of MEDIC's control direct the agency to exclude calls from the final calculation. This includes times when the agency is experiencing high call volume or significant weather events. We call these instances exemption, and these are fairly standard practice in EMS. Every agency I've worked for has had these type of exemptions. While that represents our externally reported performance, internally we monitor raw compliance, which does not include exemptions, but does take into account changes in patient condition prior to MEDIC arrival. MEDIC leadership currently focuses on raw compliance in our day-to-day work, including the way we build our staffing and scheduling. In addition to being a more accurate representation of what our patients feel, it also enables us to more clearly see where the need for improvement exists. Next slide, please. Mecklenburg County is experiencing a significant population growth that is resulting in an increase in need for MEDIC resources. Traffic patterns have clearly changed, and the amount of congestion on our roads, particularly the main thoroughfares, is at times suffocating. When coupled with MEDIC staffing challenges, it has made our ability to respond timely and consistently to all parts of the county exceptionally difficult. This table reflects MEDIC's response time compliance for our sickest patients in 2024. Looking at the first column, you can see the current zone breakdown. MEDIC tracks response times by north, central, and south zones, in addition to countywide. These zones and targets also date back to the 1990s. The second column shows the targeted compliance percentage for each zone. MEDIC is expected to arrive to 85% of high priority calls within 10 minutes and 59 seconds in each zone, and 90% countywide. Now I would ask you to look at the far right column. As you can see, we are far exceeding contract compliance targets across the board. So what's the problem? The problem is that our patients don't feel our contract compliance. They feel raw compliance. If you look at the raw compliance column, you will notice that raw compliance countywide is 81%, despite contract compliance being 98%. This discrepancy has been exacerbated over at least the last 5 years because of the pandemic and related challenges we are seeing today that I've already described. It is clear that the current process is outdated and needs to be improved. We began working with our board and the county last year to develop a reporting structure that is more transparent and easier to understand. If approved and funded, this work will drastically improve MEDIC's ability to serve this community. Next slide, please. This table shows average response times by zone for 2 different time frames, May through December 2023, which reflects the first 7 months after the response configuration changes were made, as well as calendar year 2024. You'll see that following response configuration, our average priority 1 response time countywide was 9 minutes and 19 seconds, with a slight variation across the 3 zones. Our performance improved in calendar year 2024 by about 30 seconds countywide and across the zones. These improvements are a result of continued targeted efforts on hiring and maximizing the efficiency and effectiveness of our resources, some of which are listed on the left of this slide. Though we are proud of this improvement, we continue to seek out opportunities to fine-tune our deployment strategies to consistently maintain performance for this community. In order to realize reliable improvement, though, we must increase the resources available to this agency to further close the gap between current performance and our intended targets. Next slide, please. Medic's fiscal year 26 budget request is built to address our response time concerns. Medic needs to add 50 EMTs and 8 telecommunicators to better handle the increased volume of calls for service coming to Medic. I am pleased to report that Medic is able to fund these positions through predicted revenue growth related to our call volume increases. Medic is requesting one-time funding from the county to purchase 10 ambulances to increase the size of our fleet. These are resources our system desperately needs as we have maxed out our deployment capabilities with the resources currently on hand today. Next slide, please. So what will this buy? Approving Medic's budget and submitting, as submitted, would improve EMS system coverage by increasing the number of staffed ambulances available to respond for requests for service in our community every day. By better aligning our resource availability with the demand for services, we expect improved response times and ability to flex our resources to accommodate sudden changes in demand. Next slide, please. As we discuss the needed improvements to Medic's system, I would be remiss to not share with you all of the work my team and I have been doing to redesign our zone structure. This is a map of Mecklenburg County broken down by the 3 zones Medic currently uses to track response compliance. These zones date back to the 1990s and were largely based on the county's population distribution at the time. The heart icons you see dotted around the county represent the location of current hospitals in blue and freestanding emergency departments in red. Next slide, please. Here, we see what raw response time compliance looks like for our highest priority calls broken out by the 3 current zones for calendar year 2024. While at a zone-wide level, this variation may be acceptable, we can't help but ask ourselves, is Medic's performance equitable throughout the various parts of the county? This highlights the primary issue with this method of tracking. The zones are too large to fully appreciate our performance and identify targeted areas of improvement. It is for these reasons that Medic has been working on expanding the number of zones used to track compliance to better manage the EMS system in the county. Next slide, please. A team was tasked with identifying the best way to track and report response times by zone. Following months of work and more than 12 iterations, along with feedback from our fire chiefs, we arrived at an 8-zone map. Instead of simply taking the logic of our existing zones map and looking only at population, the team pulled in landscape and demographic characteristics, as well as Medic-specific data on responses and transports. The most critical variables considered in the final version included our highway structure and how that contributes to access, zone size by square miles, and population, as well as demand for Medic's resources. Practically and statistically, this map represents significantly improved equity across these key variables. These zones also fully contain each of the towns into single zones and provide Medic with enough detail to highlight and address individual performance inconsistencies. With the framework for evaluating response zones now built, we are prepared to reevaluate and redesign this map as our community continues to grow and as needs change. This work was recently presented to our agency Board of Commissioners and, when operationalized, will allow us to better appreciate our performance in all corners of the county. Next slide, please. This map overlays our compliance for calendar year 2024 over the proposed new zone map. As you can see, this map tells a much clearer story about where our opportunities are than the current 3-zone configuration. You can see the effective population density and access on response compliance, a challenge we are seeking to address with this year's budget request. With the additional resources requested, geographical barriers become smaller hurdles to overcome in this environment. Work remains with our board to determine the goals associated with these zones. However, we anticipate that full-scale implementation of and compliance within this new zone configuration will result in a multi-year ask to effectively right-size Medic's resources to meet the demands of the system. Next slide, please. With FY26 budget approval, Medic will continue our aggressive recruitment efforts to quickly hire 50 additional EMTs. We will also begin the process of procuring vehicle chassis and fabricating ambulances to increase the size of our fleet. This work will take several months to complete, and incremental gains should be felt in the system as we go. However, to reiterate, it is important to understand that our fiscal year 26 budget request is based on today's system needs and the current zone reporting structure. It will not fully address today's system needs, and it will not fully address raw compliance results or the proposed zone improvements. Should the new zones and response time reporting measures be approved and implemented, this will require additional growth for Medic to be successful. It is our intention to do this over a multi-year period in partnership with the county. Next slide, please. Next slide. I would now like to switch our attention to the current status of discussions between Medic and our first responder partners in the community. Area fire departments have served as an integral part of Mecklenburg County EMS system for many years. Their role as first responders is critical to our overall system design and performance. Most firefighters with each fire department are credentialed EMTs, which enables them to respond and treat patients experiencing certain types of conditions. Data we have collected shows that 64% of all calls our fire departments respond to are medical calls as first responders. Ironically, this correlates precisely with national averages. Some calls we send them to are very low acuity in nature, meaning it has been determined by our certified emergency medical dispatchers that the patient is not experiencing a life-threatening emergency. The benefit here is that many of these patients end up refusing transport, and our first responders can actually prevent an unnecessary ambulance response. Other calls are of the most serious nature, like sudden cardiac arrests, where the role of our first responders play in our care protocol is essential. In either case, their role in our EMS system is critical, and we value their partnership immensely. Next slide, please. Speaking specifically to the contracts themselves, they date back to the mid-1990s, and to the best of my knowledge were put into place to memorialize an agreement for first responders to participate in the EMS system as first responders and pay a subsidy to compensate them for the services provided. As I understand it, when these contracts were created, most county fire departments were volunteer-based and did not have revenue sources or taxing authority. The contracts memorialized the level of funding support for each fire department, including medical supplies and equipment, which is passed through Medic. The contracts also outline the responsibilities of fire departments as they participate in the EMS system as first responders. For context on a state level, after speaking with multiple EMS chiefs in other North Carolina counties, and according to the North Carolina Office of EMS, Mecklenburg is the only county in North Carolina in which the EMS agency has contracts of this nature with fire departments. Mecklenburg is also the only county in the state that we are aware of that provides a subsidy to fire departments for first responder services. Next slide, please. The Charlotte Fire Department currently receives a flat subsidy of $499,035 paid in monthly installments. The town fire departments currently receive $1,027.50 flat rate per month and $21.59 per call, which equates to about $394,000 combined estimated for fiscal year 2025. While Medic does have first responder agreements with the volunteer ETJ fire departments, they are now funded through LUISA. Next slide, please. Charlotte Fire Department, Huntersville Fire Department, and Cornelius Fire Department have given Medic 180 days notice that they wish to terminate their contracts with Medic in order to renegotiate terms. We have held multiple meetings with most of the fire chiefs, in addition to meeting with the town managers to discuss issues they are looking to address through this process. To be clear, each of the departments continue to function in the EMS system as one would expect. We have been active collaborators and are fully supportive of making any positive changes for the EMS system as a whole, so long as those changes are something in the best interest of patient care and that they are things we are capable of fulfilling. Next slide, please. Town leaders have made a handful of requests. Some are shared by all and others are town specific. Improvement of medic staffing levels are a consistent theme as we have been very upfront about our staffing challenges coming out of COVID. Response time reporting by town is another consistent request we receive from town leaders. We do not currently track response times by town, as that is not the level of service granularity that Medic is designed or funded to provide. In our meeting with the towns on April 9th, there was a strong desire for Medic to report response times by zip code, in addition to the new proposed zones and countywide response time tracking. We will bring this request to our board for consideration as we work this year to improve how Medic tracks and reports response times. One of the more specific town requests we received is from the 3 northern towns, Huntersville, Davidson, and Cornelius. These 3 towns are seeking to have at least 2 dedicated ambulances placed in their communities for response to their community members. We have made it very clear that dedicated unit placement along these lines does not align with Medic's dynamic deployment model. The issues they are trying to address relative to response times are certainly something Medic is working on. However, we do not believe this is the proper solution to the problem. Continuing to increase our staffing levels, our fleet size, and completing our work on the response zone changes we are recommending is where we need to focus our resources at this time. We can take stock of the impact on all of our communities and decide what additional interventions may be prudent once that work is complete. Next slide, please. Hearing directly from the fire chiefs, they have interest in seeing additional changes to operational protocols that were put in place during our response configuration change process. Specifically, the chiefs would like the ability to stop responding to low acuity EMS calls during major fire-related incidents or severe weather. Medic is already working with CFD to create a standard operating procedure for this that could be used countywide. They would also like to see a significant reduction or elimination of the low acuity EMS calls that they respond to overall. As a reminder, we reduced first responder EMS responses by 16% countywide through the response configuration changes. The medical director also created a state-approved protocol to allow first responders to go available on scene of certain low acuity calls with patient permission so that they can be available for higher priority calls while waiting for the ambulance to arrive. Many departments have stated to me that they are uncomfortable with this protocol and choose not to use it. There have been numerous concerns voiced by fire departments regarding low acuity responses, as they are often on scene longer while awaiting an ambulance to arrive on these calls. Using first responders to respond to low acuity calls enables ambulances to remain in position to respond quickly to life-threatening emergencies. While this clearly benefits Medic, the fire department concerns about their units being tied up on low acuity calls is real. As it stands today, when a citizen calls 911 and requests EMS, the only option is to send either an ambulance or a fire truck or both. Someone has to respond. Considering that there are approximately 300 fire apparatus in the county compared to 72 Medic ambulances, our fire department partners are currently positioned best to handle low acuity calls in order to preserve limited ambulance resources. However, with that said, Medic is studying the potential use of alternative response units that could eliminate the need to send fire truck on these calls. This idea is that it would be EMS personnel in an SUV that would respond in place of the fire department. Medic has performed a series of small-scale testing back in January that revealed ARUs would require significant initial and ongoing cost. Further testing is necessary to understand the cost versus benefit of these units. All the towns and the Charlotte Fire Department have articulated a need for additional subsidy. So far, we have only received specific subsidy increase requests from CFD and Huntersville. CFD is requesting to receive the same per-call subsidy as the towns in an effort to make the subsidy what they consider to be more equitable. This would increase their annual subsidy from $500,000 to $1.8 million. However, as I understand it, CFD also has a desire for their subsidy to eventually reach $10 million annually based on their estimated cost to provide first responder services. The Huntersville Fire Department is seeking for the county to fully fund their cost to provide first responder services. This would increase their subsidy from $106,000 annually to $1.6 million annually. When presented with these requests, I did ask CFD what enhancements they would provide to the EMS system if we were able to increase their subsidy. The answer I received was that there would be no enhancements. Rather, this funding would go directly to the city's general fund. Next slide, please. As I have mentioned, our first responder partners are an integral part of the EMS system, and it is my desire, strong desire, to work with them to find mutually acceptable solutions to their concerns that are also in the best interest of our patients. The contract termination request we received from the city and 2 towns called these first responder contracts and subsidy into question. This resulted in extensive research on North Carolina EMS systems and multiple discussions between Medic's board, and the county to ensure that there was a mutual understanding regarding the requirements surrounding first responder contracts and subsidy. What we have learned from this research is that neither the county nor Medic have an obligation to fund first responder services outside of the current first responder contract agreement. Also, Medic is not required to have contracts with fire departments for them to provide first responder services in the county. The State Office of EMS has confirmed this in writing. While Medic generates its own revenue through fees for service, it has never generated enough revenue to sustain on its own without assistance from county subsidy. Medic could utilize some of its revenue that it generates to provide subsidy to first responders. However, that revenue would have to come out of Medic's operating budget. This would result in Medic decreasing funding that is used for operational costs to provide ambulance service, which would ultimately end up with Medic requesting additional subsidy from the county to fill the gap. Medic does not have taxing authority, and we are not able to carry fund balance. The only way Medic could increase its revenue is to increase its fees for service. It would not be appropriate for me to do so in order to subsidize municipal fire departments that have their own taxing authority or other funding mechanisms. The funding that Medic receives from the county is ultimately decided by the county manager and this board of county commissioners. So where do we go from here? We will need to determine funding direction from the county on Medic's budget. Next, we will have to evaluate any potential impacts from that funding decision as it relates to first responder contracts. Then please know that we are committed to continue to collaborate with our fire departments on the go forward. Whatever direction we go in regarding first responder contracts, our priority is to ensure that we provide the best possible EMS care and service delivery to all of Mecklenburg County. Thank you very much for the opportunity to provide this presentation this evening. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
All right, thank you, JP. Appreciate that. A couple things before I open up to my colleagues. One, let me take an opportunity to acknowledge the first responders that are here. I'd like you all to please stand so that we can acknowledge you, recognize you. Thank you. So we certainly appreciate you all being here, and we appreciate the work that's being done where you all are putting your lives on the line for us on a daily basis, so thank you. Appreciate the presentation. Colleagues, one of the things, this was a lot. It was a lot. There's a lot to unpack.
That's right.
And we're going to go slow and not rush into the door. So I'm going to be very clear about that. We're going to keep the normal time limits, but I know there are folks that have been in communication with the towns and certain constituencies around this. I know we have obviously at-large commissioners who have been receiving emails, and I want everyone to use this as an opportunity to gain clarification and to put questions out there now to be addressed in this particular setting. So most likely, those that need it will do 2 rounds. So keep that in mind as we go on, and if there's more that's needed, we'll do that as well. So I am going to start with Commissioner Altman first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, JP. Thank you to all of our first responders. My father came to visit me here in Mecklenburg County, and while babysitting, my 3 unruly children had a massive heart attack and ended up having to be transported for emergency triple bypass. So this hits home, as I know it does for everybody in the community. So I'm going to need to watch this whole presentation again, talk to community stakeholders, and ask a lot of follow-up questions, because it's a lot to try to understand on a first run. So I'm not going to be making any pronouncements about where I stand, except to say, obviously, that it's very important that, I mean, it's a first-order obligation that government deliver emergency services, so that, you know, we don't let anyone fall through the cracks. And I'm not sure how we're going to get there. I hear a lot of disagreement, but I'm confident that maybe not tonight, but over the next couple days and weeks, that we're going to get there. And I'm committed to that with all of my partners in the community in the north, in the south, and throughout the county. So is your basic argument that the county should not, and I guess I'll direct this to the manager also, because I'm still trying to understand that the county should not be sending money to the towns, because the towns are already having in place fire departments that don't have to be out on fire calls all that frequently, and they have the same skill set to do the initial emergency response. And so it's not an extra cost to them, because they already have these fire departments in place to provide this first level of response. And if a higher medical response is needed, then medic, which is much smaller, can follow behind. Is that the basic argument, Dina?
Yes, I think that's the basic argument. Municipal fire departments, not only here in Mecklenburg County, but across the country, first responder responsibilities is what they do. In addition to fighting fires, but a large part of what they do, and the data bore that out, 64% of their calls are first responder calls, and the taxpayers in the city of Charlotte and the 6 towns are already paying taxes for that service.
So they would be, what I'm hearing from you, mostly underutilized throughout their day if they only responded to fire.
That's correct.
Okay. And so since they're being paid for a full day of work, and they're not being called but to work for a small part of the day for fire, it allows them to provide the service that the taxpayers already paid for no additional cost. Is that right?
Yes.
And your argument is that the county should not be sending money for them already being paid to do that service?
That's my position.
Okay. And what I further understand from you is that, or the presentation, is that Mecklenburg...
Keep going.
Mecklenburg County is the only county in North Carolina that has been paying the subsidy that you no longer think the county should pay. Is that right?
That's correct, based on the research that JP has done. We are the only county in North Carolina that is providing a subsidy to municipal fire departments.
Okay, I will save for second round, and thank you.
Thank you. We're going to go with Commissioner Meyer, then Commissioner Dunlap.
Oh, thank you. It is a lot, and I appreciate that summary, Lee. What's the fire department's stand on this? Where are they on this?
They believe that the county should be paying them to provide first responder services.
Okay. And JP, first of all, thank you. You're so responsive when I email you with my own constituent issues, and you always handle it beautifully because I always hear back and they're just so happy. So thank you. When you said people feel the raw compliance and not the contract compliance back earlier in priority one, do you mean they feel like they're not getting attention?
It's the true reflection of our responses in the community, right? We know that 81% of the time we're on time, but we're reporting that we're on time 98% of the time.
Say that one more time.
81% of the time, raw compliance, we're on time. That's what the real feel is to the patients, right? And that's what our fire department partners feel as far as our on-time reliability. That's what the patients feel. But the way that the contract is set up in our reporting mechanism with the exemptions that we receive, we report that we're 98% compliant.
Okay.
It's hard for me to tell you I have a problem when I'm telling you we're 98% compliant.
Okay, I understand. Thank you for explaining that. I wasn't sure. I also want to watch this again. I do appreciate hearing what Dina just said. I do support more ambulances. I hope that we can find that for you.
Thank you.
I know how important that is. And that's all for right now. I might come back.
Okay, thank you. We're going to go with Commissioner Dunlap, then Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For those of you who wasn't around, and I think there's probably only two of us board members who are around, and I know there are several staff people who are around, it reminds me of the situation we had with Carolina's health care. Mecklenburg County was paying Carolina's health care $40 million a year to serve indigent patients. Mecklenburg County was the only county who paid Carolina's health care for indigent patients when Carolina's health care provided health care for indigent patients in all the other counties. And so Harry Jones was the manager at that time. And believe it or not, he hired Dan Bishop to take Carolina's health care to court and sued them to get out from under the contract. And Mecklenburg County won for the very same reason that is being presented here tonight. And so I am not an attorney. I believe, based on the information of the past, that if this situation were to go to court, Mecklenburg County would probably prevail in that incident. Given that situation, I got a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
With the funds that are currently being paid for the services that are provided by the fire departments, what is the increase that they're seeking?
So as far as the overall percentage increase?
Yeah.
So there.
Otherwise, guess estimate.
Yes, well, dollar-wise, the Charlotte Fire Department is seeking to go from a $500,000 subsidy to a $1.8 million subsidy. And the Huntersville Fire Department is seeking to go from a $106,000 subsidy to a $1.6 million subsidy. The percentages are something like 256% increase for CFD and about a 1,400% increase for Huntersville. And there is a desire that I have heard from all of the towns to have an increase in subsidy. These are the only two that I know that have actually asked us for a specific number so far.
I guess I need a second round, too.
We'll go to second round. Commissioner Powell, then Commissioner Leak.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. It is a lot. And I do know Davidson didn't ask for more.
They have
So
not yet.
they just
Nope.
wanted to remain the same. I really appreciate you going over the raw compliance versus contract compliance, because there is a lot of heartburn, like, frustration, and people thinking it's book cookery when they hear the contract compliance versus what is truly happening. I really appreciate you adding more zones, and hopefully getting to what everybody needs to understand. But when you look at District 1, it's what we feel. Like when you look at that 68% and then down more to the right of North Charlotte, and you look at that low number, it's what we feel. And so while it might not be in your recommendation yet, I don't think that the North or myself are going to back down on dedicated ambulances in the North. I was just in a meeting with CMPD for 2.5 hours where we talk about how difficult it is for them because the geography of that whole area is so massive. And so I think that your EMTs and paramedics and you feel the same as I'm expressing, that you want to get there, we need you there, and how do we set it up so that you are there? Because right now we feel the pain of not having the resources on time.
Yes, ma'am.
And so that's a question, how can we get dedicated ambulance service, because we need it? And how do we decrease medic hold time for the fire department? Because that seems to be a big issue. So if you could answer that for now.
Sure. So a couple things on that. The first with regard to dedicated units. So as I mentioned before, that's not something we recommend because that's outside of our system status plan. To elaborate on that a little more and to the second piece of that, we just have proposed, we've done all this work to propose new zones. I really think that we should increase medic in our fleet size and our personnel to meet those response times in those zones first and see how that impacts, right? If we do that work first and complete that, then we can look and see, do we still have a problem that we might need to consider a dedicated unit or some other option, like maybe a deployment center further north or something like that. There are other options and ways for us to look at this. I think our first priority is to finish the work that we've already started, get medic built to beat that, because as you saw in the response times of the new zones, if we turn that on today, we would not be successful. And that's going to take us time to be able to get to that. And it does come down to $2, because an ambulance that's sitting idle and that's not generating or not running calls is not generating revenue. So there's a significant cost to that. That's obviously something that would have to be discussed on the go forward. If that's the right thing that this board and the county want us to do, then of course we would look at that. And then on your second piece, remind me, I'm sorry.
How do you decrease medic hold time?
Decrease medic hold time. So there's a couple of things with that. So our team has done what I'll call a deep dive into our response reconfiguration. They have looked at every single different response determinant. If you remember, you may maybe not remember, but there's 2,200 or so response determinants. These are all the different types of response determinants that can happen based on the information we receive from a caller who calls 911. It helps us determine what the right resource is to send. One of the things that we identified is there's an opportunity for us to reduce first responder only responses significantly, like around 32% or so countywide. That is something that is an opportunity that would significantly reduce fire department wait times, but there's something that I think is equally, if not even more important, and that is something that is called the Advanced Send Protocol. So the Advanced Send Protocol is specifically geared towards police departments and how police departments can better communicate with medic so that we understand understand what they're seeing and dealing with and what they need. Most of those first responder only calls, which I think are really kind of the crux of the issue with sending the fire department out first without a medic, and then the fire department gets there and determines, yeah, we need a medic, and then they got to wait for a medic, right? If we can, number one, reduce the number of times that they're going out there without medic, that's piece number one, and we believe we can do that. Piece number two is most of those calls are actually generated by the police. And while I think our police departments and our police officers are providing generally good information through their dispatch centers sometimes, in fact, probably most of the time, for whatever reason, that is not relayed to our dispatch center. So oftentimes what we might just get is, I need medic. That doesn't tell us what we need to send to them. So the advanced send protocol, and we're testing this in Cornelius and have had some very positive results with this. And so I do want to take an opportunity to thank the town of Cornelius and the Cornelius police chief for working with us on that, because I believe that it's going to be successful in helping the police have a better, more scripted way to get the information to us that we need to provide the proper response. That way, we're not just sending the fire department to check it out to see if there's a patient, and that way we're not holding police officers unnecessarily longer waiting for medic, and we're not holding firefighters unnecessarily longer waiting for medic. I'm working with Chief Jennings with CMPD on hopefully getting a meeting set up soon. I believe that might already be set up. One of my staff might know the answer to that. But my goal with that would be to get that protocol in place countywide. And to do that, we're going to need the support of our towns, we're going to need the support of the city, and the police departments, of course, especially in their dispatch centers. It's just a simple protocol answering 7 questions that will give us exactly what we need. And I think we could reduce very many of those wait times for those firefighters on those calls. So that's work already underway.
Thank you.
All right. We'll go with Commissioner Leek, then Commissioner Townsend Ingram.
Did you call me? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. I'm not as astute as the rest of these young people about the use of the fire department. My interest is about the ambulance. And because of my seniors, but we're having more fires now than we've had in the last 5 years in given areas of the city and across this country, really. So my concern is, what is it we need to do to inform the general public to live safer so that the need will not be as great? And one of the things we see is accidents all the time, every day, 77, 85, 99, 95, I'm saying 160 highways. And we hear this on the news all day long, every 10 minutes. It's about traffic. And that's a part of the concern. And I've had 3 calls this past week where I've had constituents whose weight caused them not to be able to get up because they fall. And they know that it is expensive because they've used it before as a means of support. And my response is, the only thing you can do is to call the fire department. And they don't call the ambulance service, they call the fire department. So how can we re-educate our people to try to live safer, or what to do to keep from having to use the cost of the fire department and breaking down doors and trying to get to people who've fallen? One family that called me had 2 incidents in their family of the same person. So talking with you and listening tonight and having this to share with the general public, because I used to give my handouts to the ministers to put in their churches to feed information to the general public. So I need your help.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
need your help. How to deliver and change that thought process and to make it easier. But with the growth of the city of Charlotte is such that nobody is thinking about how to make it safer. We don't even see the highway patrolman that much to stop the speeding and taking over the streets at night and what happens that way. So we have to do a better job in our communities to educate our young people and our seniors. So help me. My word is help.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman, it's help. How do we get to my seniors? Yes, sir.
So
Thank you so much for your time. And thank you for staying tonight.
Well, and we've got folks up there from our public relations department as well, and those are the folks that are key in helping make sure that that message is out there. They do an amazing job. In the last couple of years since I've been here, they have ramped up their work on teaching CPR and public education classes, and they are just outstanding. So just recognizing those folks for the great work that they do in our community is unbelievable. But there is so much work still to do, to your point, and it's not just here in Mecklenburg, it's across the state and it's across the country. Public education on when is the right time to call 911 is important. How to take care of yourself so you don't put yourself in that instance in the first place is important. But we also know that there are some people who don't have any other choice. They don't have any other option. They might not have the ability to see a doctor on their own, and the only thing they know is to go to the emergency room, and we end up being the backstop for health care for those folks. And we absolutely will continue to do that and take great care of those folks. It is a challenge nationwide. You know, I think I've mentioned to this board before that, you know, we're up to nearly 200,000 responses for service now at Medic. And about 40,000 of those don't result in an ambulance transport. So there's a lot of people that just need us to check, and then they don't even go to the hospital. That's a lot of tremendous expense and a tremendous, you know, cost of readiness for us to do that. We do it because we want to be there for everybody, and of course we'll continue to do that. But there is so much work that still needs to be done, so I appreciate you bringing that up. And I hope that we can continue to work together to bring public education throughout the county.
Thank you. Commissioner.
Thank you.
Commissioner Townsend Ingram, then Commissioner Rodriguez McDowell.
Thank you all again. Like everyone has said, we really respect and appreciate you for all of the hard work that you do, knowing that it is most of the time a thankless job. I have several questions since I'm the person that's new. Like I was sitting here Googling some of the information, but I know that I will have additional questions that I want to reserve, not even just for the second round, but for maybe later on that we can do. But one of my primary questions tonight is the funding model that you have for Medic. It seems outdated. Of course. Who organizes that? Who says? Is that something that has to go to Raleigh and then is mandated by the North Carolina General Assembly? Who assembles the districts? And I saw that Central was kind of narrowed, and I saw that, you know, there were some different zones there. But who assembles the funding model? And also, do you have a foundation? Are there, what percentages do the foundations? I would love to see percentages of who provides what in the funding as a funding model.
Sure. I can actually go over that with you right now. So in the state of North Carolina, the counties are responsible for the provision of EMS services. And so it is at the local level that is designed. And in this system, it is designed where Medic is the ambulance service. We are an exclusive EMS provider. There is not another ambulance provider. Our hospital providers do have some ambulances that they do inter-campus transports and critical care transports and things like that. But we are the only 911 provider within Mecklenburg County. That system was created back in the 90s, which formed Medic. We are a joint government agency, so I'm not a county employee, I'm a Medic employee, but I am a government employee. I have a board that I report to that's made up of 3 representatives from Atrium Health, 3 representatives from Novant Health, and 1 representative from Mecklenburg County.
And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to interrupt you, but I know we have limited time. That I understand.
Okay.
The portion that I'm trying to understand is
specific to funding.
Do you get subsidies? Okay, so you get a subsidy from Mecklenburg County. What do you get any subsidy from a foundation since you are a nonprofit? No. Do you get any funding from state, federal, that kind of thing, so that we can see what goes into the funding that you actually receive? And maybe it is that we need to look at, it is a complex funding model, but it may be that we need to look at it and reevaluate it to see where funding comes from in addition to, and these are just things we can think about, there's some questions that I have about training, and maybe the new training facility can help reduce some of those call times and things of that nature, and I wish we can work with public relations and the public on getting that information out on the benefits of a training facility, but that's primarily where my question lies.
So I'm tracking with you now. So there are two primary ways that Medic is funded. One, and the largest, which is about 75% of our revenue, comes in the form of fees for service. That is what we bill and collect from patients for the service that we provide. Medic is unique as a first responder, unlike our fire department and police departments that are fully 100% government supported and funded. Medic is self-reliant by 75% by generating revenue through fees for service. The other 25% or so of our revenue comes in the form of county subsidy. And so that county subsidy is discussed each year with Medic as part of our budget process. We submit our complete budget to the county manager, and the county manager then makes her recommendation for Medic's budget to you all, which is approved. And that's it. It's really those two sources. There's no other funders.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Rodriguez-McDowell, and Commissioner Griffin.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, thank you, YTI, for setting up that question, because I'm on a similar track trying to understand the funding model. And so when I first got on the board in 2018, I remember that folks used to come and line up to talk about the ambulance bills. And there was a lot of complaints around that at the time. And so now we don't have that so much anymore. And is that, my question is, is that because the county is paying a higher subsidy? Or I'm trying to understand Atrium and Novant's role and, what kind of funding. I mean, obviously, I don't think they are. You said the counties are responsible, so that doesn't mean the hospital systems are responsible. Correct. But these are their customers. This is their revenue stream coming into their. This doesn't make sense to me. So if you could see the amount of questions on my piece of paper here, you would. I mean, it's just like trying to follow this. At the very beginning, one of the things at the end of your presentation that you stated was that county and Medic have no requirement to provide, and then I didn't hear what you said. And so we have no requirement.
So there were two things at the end there.
Okay.
One is, based on everything that I've learned from the research that I've done, is that I don't believe that the county has an obligation or requirement to fund first responder services, nor does Medic, right? Right now, the money comes through Medic. And also, in speaking with the state office of EMS, because I wanted to make sure that we weren't required, if we're required to have these contracts, how does that look? How does it work in other counties? And what I found is that no other counties have contracts for first responder services through their ambulance service. So Medic is not required to have a contract with fire departments to provide first responder services.
Okay, stop.
Okay.
Sorry.
Nope, it's okay. There's a lot.
I have no idea how much time I have left because we don't have a little number thing going, but that is really helpful. Okay, I have to just say that, we know that this board supports first responders, right? We totally want to support you guys. And so, county manager, can you help with this idea? Are the towns and Charlotte, are we paying subsidies for the towns and for Charlotte?
Yes.
We are,
Yes.
for all of those?
Yes.
Okay, can you explain that?
Can I explain
what
the
are you
origin
saying?
of
It's
it?
the origin of the subsidy, what's?
The origin of the subsidy goes back to the 1990s when this medic structure was created. And so, as JP indicated, we believe, and we've done a lot of research, we've talked to Joe Penner, it predates him, so the exact origin is not 100% clear, but what we believe is that at that time, we had mostly volunteer fire departments that did not have any taxing authority. So county was providing subsidy to help support that because they didn't have any mechanism to get funding on their own. Since that time, the system has changed significantly where we have town and city fire departments who have taxing authority and have the wherewithal to fund their own first responder services, which they do.
To the fire department.
well, the fire, through the city, right? So the city levies taxes, gives it to the fire department. The towns levy taxes, and so they're already paying, the citizens are already paying for that service. So there's really no reason that the county should be providing any funding to any municipal fire department for first responder services.
So that constitutes a change
Yes.
to the 1990 precedent.
Correct. It should have been changed a long time ago. We just never did it. Because this, I mean, Mecklenburg County is significantly different now than it was in the mid-1990s.
Let me
And
come
just
to
to end to your question, I think when you came on the board at that time, one of the things that we had proposed was to have the Office of the Tax Collector try to collect delinquent ambulance bills, and there was a tremendous amount of opposition to that, so we pulled that. So I
Okay.
think that's what you're referring
That
to.
is, thank you. Thank you for reminding me of that. Yeah.
Let me come to Commissioner Griffin to end this particular round, and then we'll come back around to everybody.
What I do know, I think it's been said, the function of government, first priority is safety of its residents, and this would be considered safety from my perspective. To help me unpack all the questions I got on 2 pieces of paper here, can I get Dina whatever this MOU is from 1997? I need to get some context for my questions and responses, because right now there are questions and responses going everywhere. That would help me. Just share it with the board. JP, you said something that the county was responsible for EMS services?
Yes, sir.
That's in the statute, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so, Mr. Attorney, just tell me where I can get that citation from, so I can put references to a lot of this conversation that's going on. In 23, I think that was my first budget. I think that's when you guys made a presentation about changing your times and services, lights on, no lights off. And our brethren from CFD was there, and it was kumbaya, and 2 years later, we looked talking about a divorce almost. I'm just trying to figure out how do we get from there to here. And I don't want to alarm the general public about the quality of their safety services in terms of ambulance or fire. So I just, I could have 1,000 questions, but they'd just simply be questions without any context. So if I can get those documents, number one, to kind of see how things are flowing. And Mecklenburg County's population, I think somewhere I saw, is going to go increase by 500,000 by 2050 or 2030, some huge number. So we got to get this right. If 97 was the MOU period, that's what, 30 years ago almost. So 30 years from now, we got to game this so that we can be consistent in terms of providing first-class services to all the residents of Mecklenburg County. Absolutely. So if I could get those, that would be good. Your 8 zones are without the services of our partners. Is that correct?
No, that still includes the services of our first responder partners. The 8 zones are specifically how Medic looks at our responses, not the fire department responses.
Okay, all right. I'm just trying to put it in context, and right now there's just too many moving parts. And if I can get the paperwork, then I can read it and kind of determine, and I can also reach out. If we're the only county in North Carolina that has this financial relationship with municipalities, I'd like to have that somehow or another, whether Mr. Attorney or Dean or somebody can provide that information too. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. So everybody, we're going to go around for round 2. Madam Clerk, I think at this point everybody should just need 2 minutes. I would suggest let's get our questions out and then the commentary on the back end, but that's just a suggestion. You can handle it how you want. Let's start back with Commissioner Altman. We'll go with Commissioner Altman, Meyer, and then Commissioner Dunlap.
Okay, take out your pens, because I'm going to give you a bunch of questions.
I'll try to remember.
But before I do, let me just say, between 50 and 150 people, I hear different quotes, are moving here a day. So it makes sense that we we are needing to change and grow. And obviously, I understand the manager not wanting to essentially double tax residents, especially when we are really trying to be trim with our budget. But a couple things, and here are my questions. Number one, I don't really accept that this cannot be broken down by zip code. I think it ought to be. I think we owe that level of transparency, especially when there's so much consternation here. I don't accept that. I don't want that to be the outcome. I sincerely hope you will find a way to provide this data by zip code to assist in everyone understanding that this is fair and equitable. Number two,